doing things a little differently on this episode of Beyond Reform. For those of you joining us for the first time, I'm your host, Aniki Clark. I'm actually on my way to 6 Saxtorp Avenue, the offices of the Transformation Implementation Unit, to speak with the Executive Director there, Maria Thompson Walters, on the Public Sector Transformation Program, how that's been going, and the impact it's been having on the public sector, and importantly on the services to citizens. And also to talk with her about her recent award for the work that she's done in transforming the public sector. Let's go.
Come in.
Hello, Maria. Thanks for accepting our invitation to talk to you about public sector transformation and the work of the unit that you lead.
Well, thank you for asking me. And as you know, transformation is something I'm always ready to talk about.
Oh, great. So, the truth is, Jamaica has had a long history of public sector transformation, more like seeking to modernize the state, dating back from administrative reform to now a different focus on transformation. What has been different this time around?
I think this time around, the focus has been sort of a more strategic approach to transformation. In the past, we've tried to look across the entire public sector. And there is a lot to do across the entire public sector, but we've tried to push transformation, modernization, reform into a single activity. And so we end up doing everything or trying to do everything at once. This time around, we've done two significant things. Rather than look at only at what is wrong with the public sector, we've also looked at what we want to see. So when we say we've transformed, what does that look like? What does that feel like? So we've looked at strategic outcomes. And then we have also created this unit, the Transformation Implementation Unit, with a focus on implementation. So transformation is not just another area of work amongst other areas of work. The entirety of the TIU is around transforming the public sector. So it gives it that focus that it needs. We've also looked at the resources that's required, not to transform the entire public sector, but to transform this phase. So to look at this phase of public sector transformation and what is going to be required, both in terms of technology, human resources, equipment, material, and ensure that we are providing what is adequate. The final thing that I would say that would make things different is we've looked at the entire public sector. But this time we've taken a phased approach to public sector transformation. What are the things that must happen that we can build on? What would then be that second tier that we can build on? And so on and so forth. So those are the things I think are different.
Okay, so it's not taking everything all at once and deciding that you have to go this route.
Exactly.
You mentioned something that I want to go back to, and you said that you also looked at what you would want to see.
Yes.
What is that thing, or can you paint a picture of what we would want to see to say that we are being effective in transforming the government of Jamaica?
So if we think about the things that really need to be looked at in the transformation agenda, first and foremost, we're talking about our customers, our citizens. And what are the things that our citizens want? Their citizens want to do business with the government in a manner that is efficient, that they can come in, do their business, and then leave. But they also want to be in an environment that is welcoming to them and that provides a message that we take their business seriously. So the first outcome, I would say, is around customer service, but not the customer service that says, hi, welcome to, the tax administration department, or welcome to the Kingston Public Hospital, have a seat and wait, and then the our customers sit and wait for 3 hours, 4 hours. No. We are talking about customer service that starts at the level of processes, where we are able to develop or change our processes in such a way that decision making is closer to our customers. So the more we empower the front desk to deal with the customers' issues directly rather than having them sitting and waiting. That's what we mean when we talk about a customer service methodology that puts decision making closer to our customers.
Yeah, that's very important.
Respectful of their time and the fact that they want to get on with their lives. So the first is our customers. The second is the people who provide that service. So we want employees who are properly compensated. We want employees who have avenues for development. But most importantly, we need to transform the public sector from a clerical-based organization to a knowledge-based organization, because the technology is moving in that area and is invasive. The technology spreads to everything that we do. And so we want skills-based, knowledge-based employees, properly compensated, and of course, with the opportunities for development so that they can progress their own careers in the public sector.
And I imagine that feeds into the overall vision for
public sector transformation, of course. So when we think about what we want our public sector to be, what we're saying is that we want a modern public sector that is fair, values people, and consistently delivers high quality services.
And you mentioned customers, and I'm going to share with you, we went to the streets, right?
Oh dear.
To ask people what does public sector transformation mean to them.
Okay.
And have a listen.
It means changing it for the better customer service.
Less loose of paper, because sometimes I don't see the reason for some of the papers.
Pertaining to hospital and clinic, sometimes you go there and you have to wait very long. And it's not everybody have the money to really go and seek it in a private facility. So the waiting hours, I think also that the machines that they have there, they should be in full use. I suppose more people to serve you so that you get through quickly.
Service.
So improve customers.
Improve the customer, especially how they treat you. The way, the manners is very important. So all the quality of the thing they do, the files, the buildings, everything is all
more online, because a lot of persons, even the same police record, a co-worker of mine doesn't know what to do. You understand? I was explaining to her and she said she still didn't understand, and I told her that once she paid the fine done by the tax office, I will help her to go online and to sign up. You understand? But a lot of persons are not expecting to even go and do a fingerprint. You have to go and pay there, and then you have to go there one another day, and then another when you go there, so you have to like go to up the place up Hope Street, the police club. There you have to go to collect it. So it's like 3 different places, right? If it could be more centralized, it would be better, because a lot of persons are living far and wide, and you have to move from one point A, point B, point C. So it's kind of confusing at times for persons who do not even know where they're going.
So how would you react to this?
I must say, when you said you went to the public, I was taking a deep breath there. But I think what we've heard serves to underscore what this program is built on. And if we just put ourselves in the shoes of customers, then we understand what it is that they want. And what I've heard just reinforces that the path that we have chosen to execute public sector transformation is the correct path. If we think about it, we are all customers of the government. Employees who work in the government are also customers of the government, and we feel the same pain. You go to get your driver's license, you need to get a tax compliance certificate, you're acting on behalf of a member of your family who wants to open a business. We all interact with the government.
Yes.
And in that interaction, we don't think about, well, the company's office is horrible or the hospital is horrible. what we think about, and it's clear when you listen to the persons, nobody talked about a particular department, they all talked about the government.
Yes, that is true.
Yes. So it doesn't serve us to say, well, my area of the government is okay because we're doing this. No, it's the government. That's what our customers see.
So talk us through that program of work, Maria, to help to transform the government as opposed to one area.
Right. So remember we talked about putting this program in phases. So we looked at 5 areas and we call them pillars. 5 pillars for public sector transformation. The first pillar has to do with efficiency and technology, and how we introduce technology into the workplace to make things more efficient.
Okay.
To introduce technology into the business of government so that we can demonstrate that the efficiency gains that can happen. To do that, we're working with 4 agencies. PICA, Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, Ministry of Labor, the Fisheries Authority, and for those 3 agencies, we have looked at one area of their business that impacts not just their employees, but also customers. And we have sought to introduce technology in that particular area in order for them to respond to their customers' needs quicker, faster, more accurate, and more efficiently, and to allow their employees to work more efficiently. The 4th one is CPFSA, and you would wonder what kind of technology can we introduce into CPFSA, the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, and we've done so by helping them to integrate the Children's Registry into CPFSA's system so that the officers who work in the field have a seamless source of information. They are not waiting in a crisis to get information on a child and to verify that information. That is done seamlessly. We've looked at their entire ICT landscape.
Okay.
We have built out their ICT landscape. We've provided them with their own network. We have also worked with them with the children's homes. We've provided tablets. We've provided computers. We have worked with them to modernize their behavioral programs and to provide sensory rooms for those children who have challenges such as autism. And we would have opened one, the first one, just last week Friday,
right,
at Muirton Boys Home,
yes,
in Portland. So that's the pillar around ICT and technology. And of course, across the entire public sector, we have upgraded the data center at eGov to ensure that it has the capacity to manage data. Because when you introduce technology, what you generate is data.
A lot of data. Yeah.
And we have built out the government's network, fondly known as GovNet.
Okay.
And by
long in coming.
And by built out GovNet, what I mean is that, we do have pre-existing fiber that's available to the government, but not in any structured way. So we have made that network redundant. We have connected where we have gaps. We have provided to eGov the tools to manage the network and to bring connectivity to all of the government offices in the Kingston metropolitan area. We have shared corporate services, which is our second pillar, and that's a new area where we look at consolidating the back office into one department. Human resource management, payroll, internal audits, finance and accounts, procurement into one office, and providing those services now back to government, improved through the use of technology.
So that's actually improving how the government serves itself.
That is improving how the government serves itself. But also, when you look at procurement, it's also improving how it interfaces with its service providers. The third pillar that we have is compensation management. A big projects. I think our most ambitious projects, because it touches absolutely everybody in the public sector, and it touches persons in respect to their pockets, which is very personal for everybody.
Yes.
And so it is an area where people will become
highly charged emotionally.
highly charged emotionally, but also hyper-focused. Hyper-focused. And it feels personal because compensation at its most abstract is really looking at two jobs and saying in an organization, what is the worth of one job relative to the other job? But because there are people in those jobs, what it feels like is you're measuring my worth against another employee's work. And that's why I say it's our biggest project, because you deal with the full gamut of emotions, persons who believe, rightly or wrongly, that they've been badly done by in terms of compensation over the years. So you're dealing with all of that. But I think that we have created a groundwork for the government to build on. We now have a single pay spine. We have a single job evaluation tool, so a single methodology to measure jobs across the public sector, no matter where those jobs are. Whether those jobs are, it's in the police force, it's a clerical officer, it's an administrator, it's a manager, it's a doctor, it doesn't matter. That tool can measure all jobs.
And that single pay spine you spoke about, that's a 16 band.
That's a 16 band pay spine, and the majority of the public sector sits on that pay spine, and we are able to look clinically to say, from a point of view of equity, these are your circumstances. They've both been measured using the same ruler, and this is how they have come out. We have developed an appeals process, because in all things, employees must have the right to appeal. So we've developed an appeals process, which will be rolled out once implementation is completed. We're now in the middle of implementation for the compensation management, and that will be fully completed 31st of March 2025. It's a 3-year implementation. But I believe that now in the second year, moving into the third year, we have seen where things have begun to calm down. Persons have become more used to this new compensation methodology, and for the most part, I think the public sector is primarily settled.
Great. And
our fourth pillar is human resource transformation. So we want to change how we work. We want to provide better service. We want to create a digital government. We want to make sure that we're efficient at what we do. We serve our customers, but there are people who do that.
Right.
And how we manage, how we develop, how we help our employees to chart their own careers cannot be the same as it was 30 years ago.
Definitely not.
Exactly. Additionally, too, one of the things that we have to manage, which is a different type of problem, is the multi-generational mix in the workplace. And
Gen Z baby boomers.
Gen Z baby boomers, Gen X, millennial.
Yes.
And this time around, though, they all have such distinct personalities and values that for human resource manager, it is a stretch to sort of manage all of those disparate expectations. And the other thing that we need to remember is that how employees come to the workplace is also very different. 40 years ago, you found a job, and it became your job for life. This is your career, and you progress in this organization, and you're going to stay with this organization. Today, mostly around millennials, they are much more outward looking, let me put it that way. Exactly. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that, because there's nothing that says, if I want to become CEO of this organization that I'm working in, or if I want to, become the permanent secretary, I need to get experience in these areas. If I stay in this ministry, I won't get that experience. So let me leave, because I could always come back. So it's how we look at our employees, how we develop them. So human resource management transformation is looking at things like ensuring our HR managers understand the need to strategically plan their workforce. You don't leave it to chance anymore. We're looking at introducing a new model in human resource management called the Ulrich model. And the Ulrich model seeks to put HR in its component parts. The first is the Centers of Expertise, which is the Strategic Human Resource Management Division in the Ministry of Finance and the Office of the Services Commissions, located at the Ministry of Finance, but really it is a secretariat for the Public Services Commissions. Both of them are responsible for HR policy and processes in government. And so they are the centers of expertise. They provide answers to HR managers out there. The other component looks at our HR managers and our HR supervisors or heads of HR as partners in the ministry, department, or agency, and basically says that these are our HR business partners, and their job is to work alongside the different areas in the organization to help them fulfill their strategic objectives. We have the right employees in the right place, our performance management is being done properly, employees have a voice, they coach managers in their people management responsibilities, because a myth that we have is that anything to do with the management of people belongs to HR. And that's not so, because if I am in a department or I'm running a department, there's nobody in HR that should be able to tell me how to schedule my staff, when the staff should go on leave. That's my job as a manager. The development of my staff is my job as a manager. I should be able to look at my staff and see this person needs training, this officer has potential. Let me reach out to HR for them to guide me as to where I can find these things for my staff.
I can just see some public sector managers listening and like, what is she talking about?
Oh, absolutely. Right down to if you have an officer who is consistently late, that is not a matter to send to HR to be dealt with. That is a responsibility of the manager to have that conversation with staff. So it's about really looking at how we're managing the public sector's most valuable resource, its employees, and ensuring their development, and primarily ensuring that they are in the right job.
That's a big change, though, Maria.
It is a huge change.
Yes. How are you going to get there in terms of changing the mindset of your HR practitioners who have been largely concerned with, as important as these things are, leave these, everyday
these
tasks,
transactional areas of HR? Yes.
How do they move into that strategic positioning that you're talking about?
Well, the first thing to do, and the first thing that we've done, is to have a conversation with HR and to find out from them what are the things that they want to do. And to be fair, nobody wants to be stuck doing administrative work when there are so many other more interesting areas of HR. And I'm not saying that with any sort of negativity, it's just a fact. And when you start to speak with the HR community and you describe for them a different way of working, I can tell you it is amazing the transformation at the start of those sessions and at the end of those sessions. People are eagerly waiting to find out how do we get to this place where we get to do more of this type of work. They are interested in being an influential voice in their organization and not just the unit that planned the party or planned staff engagements. You do have some HR managers who are skeptical, and for good reason, because they're saying, yes, you're telling us this, but how do you convince the managers that this is how things should be? How do you convince our permanent secretaries or our CEOs the value of having HR in the room with them when they're taking decisions or getting advice from HR? So we want this, but us wanting it alone isn't going to help. And our answer to that is really simple. If you want somebody to want something, you have to introduce that something to persons, because they don't know what you're missing until you bring it to them. And I recall we had a conversation with a permanent secretary about the staffing mix in the organization, and that permanent secretary was, I've been trying to get information on how many people are going to retire in the next 5 years, and I cannot get that information. And we said to her, all right, give us a couple of hours. Sat with the HR in that organization, which is on my HR Plus, of course. Pulled the data, produced not just the number of persons who are going to be retiring in the next 5 years based on age, but also showed her how many persons are at risk of retiring because they're close to the age where they can voluntarily retire, and you cannot tell them no. We also looked at across the managers, what was the age matrix across managers, sex, the persons who have entered the organization in the past 2 years, how many have left, how many have stayed, where they are, how they've progressed. Blown away.
Yeah. The power of data.
The power of data. And also that you can introduce these things into your conversations with your managers and show them how it helps them when they're taking decisions about the organization. And the ministry, departments, agencies normally have a 3-year budget, and there are things that they want to do in the 3 years, but how are they going to execute them? Where are the people to execute them? Do we have the right talent to do it? Do we have the right skill sets to execute? These are things that strategic HR brings to the table. And then the third area of the Ulrich model is called HR shared services, which is part of our corporate shared services we spoke about earlier. So that organization provides these services to employees. So management of leave, pay letters, employment letters, managing employees' files, dealing with requests from employees. It then moves the HR department into a space where they can focus on strategic HR, but also on employee engagement, on development across the organization. They can look at career pathing, helping employees to plan their careers across this big organization that we call the public sector, and also within their own ministries. So the HR shared services frees up HR to do work that impacts directly an employee's journey through the public sector.
Impressive. But I'm just here reflecting that certainly is a journey. And how do you take the HR practitioners who've largely been accustomed to working in a particular way to that new promised land?
We have a mantra in TIU. We meet people where they are, and we try not to leave anybody behind. Anybody who gets left behind would be their choice. And by that we mean we don't assume that everybody's at the same place. Change is scary, always scary. It could be something that you want, but the journey to get there is not easy. Some people are more courageous than others. They will jump head first, but other people they want to see a path. And so we try and meet people exactly as I say. We meet them where they are. So for those that are more courageous, and so we are happy to take them through those conversations to progress what it means to get to this promised land. And for those that are still on the bank of the river, who kind of just want to push their toe in, we stand up beside them and we push our toe in with them too, and we take them through what it means for them, how they have to change, what that journey looks like. So we are creating the strategic HR departments with our HR colleagues. We are creating the centers of expertise with the colleagues in the centers of expertise. And the shared services we are creating with both.
So in a way, you're creating the future together.
Exactly. Because the TIU is here to implement. But I was reading an article recently about changing how government changes. And it resonated with me, and I must say that, when we built out this program, never had this thought in my mind. But when you want to implement a project in government, or you want to implement a program, or you want to make some sort of change, you create a project team. The project team comes, they do their work, and then we go and we talk about business as usual. So the project gets handed over to business as usual, and for the most part things then stop because it's no longer resource the way it needs to be to get it to grow. It may either in terms of financial resources or human resources to get it to grow. And so in looking at changing how government changes, for us, it's very important that we work with the agencies. We don't come in, create something, and then hand it over to business as usual and move on. Absolutely not. We insist that an entity that we're working with works alongside us, because they're creating for themselves. We are here to help. We are here to make sure that, we have the funds to make the payments, but the processes belong to them. The outcomes will belong to them. They have to manage this into the future. Technology is not stagnant. It will evolve. They need to evolve with it. And in order to do that, they have to understand it. And so we build things together.
And seek to embed.
In normal operations. And it has been largely successful for us.
We're going to talk about the success, but
yes.
you've mentioned 4 of the 5
4 of the 5 pillars, that's true. So our 5th pillar is public bodies rationalization. And I take a deep breath when I say that.
Tell us why.
Because there's a knee-jerk reaction to the word rationalization. And the first thing people think of, well, this is a sort of a polite way to say we're cutting people, we're cutting the public sector, we're cutting people. And that's not so. Public bodies rationalization is taking a look at the public bodies landscape against the policy about the categorization of public bodies. So what are the features of a public body? What type of area of the public sector should become or should be serviced through the creation of public bodies? That's a lens that we look at the public bodies landscape through. And we do have public bodies that have been hugely successful. National Family Planning Board is an easy one. When it was developed at a time when our population was experiencing exponential growth. Yes. So I'm sure some of our listeners will remember the phrase,
2 is better
than too many.
Of course.
Yes. And that is a testament to how successful the National Family Planning Board was, because that was way back in the 70s, I think. And that people still remember that phrase.
Yeah. But also now that you have a decline in birth rate where we're encouraging people.
We're now encouraging people to. So the National Family Planning Board, its original mandate, it has met and surpassed, I would say. And as you rightfully say, we're now in a situation where we have a declining birth rate. The National Family Planning Board was built to get us to slow down our population growth. Today, we need to look at a different problem. As our population ages, our birth rate falls. That is also not a good thing, because as we get older, the burden on the state becomes more. The rate at which persons are entering the workforce to contribute to NIS, to provide national insurance to the persons who are getting older, is disproportionate. And so what we've done is to take the National Family Planning Board, integrate it into the Ministry of Health, which is where it would have come from, so that we can look at families more holistically.
Right.
You look at not just your birth rate, but the lifestyle diseases that are impacting our population, and all of the things that we need to create healthy families in the country. So it's not about getting rid of the Family Planning Board, it's about moving to its evolution, which is a reintegration into. And that's how we've approached it. You have public bodies that would have achieved their mandate and those public bodies would be closed.
But the functions would then go into their parent ministry or merge with another entity. So that's the lens that we look at public bodies rationalization, and it's a very pragmatic way to look at it, because in some instances when you merge two organizations, you actually need more people than when you had them separately. So you can see it's not about cutting, it's about creating that efficiency of delivery of service. That is our driver for public bodies rationalization, and that's our fifth pillar. We'll talk about the successes later. Yes. But one of the things that people tend to talk about when they hear efficiency is doing more with less.
Yes.
So is that part of what you're doing?
In a way, it is doing more with less, but it is also about producing more with the same. So it's two things. When you talk about efficiency, yes, you're talking about doing more with less. So we've created, let's say we've merged two entities, but we expect more from the merged entity. Their mandate has broadened. We may add a couple more posts to that organization, but in terms of the breadth of the mandate that they now have to deliver, with essentially the same remits in terms of employees, that's doing things more efficiently. We also focus on being more productive, which is making sure that we do more with the same or less. So we are producing more at the same cost or at a lower cost, whether it is cost of people, cost of equipment, cost all the inputs into producing what we're producing. We are producing more with less, and that's what the infusion of technology allows us to do. That is what integrating public bodies into their parent ministries where required, or merging or divesting, allows us to do. That is what compensation management allows us to do. That is what the build out of shared corporate services allows us to do. Become a more productive, innovative public sector.
Great. I see you're itching to talk about the success.
I am.
And I won't hold you back. So looking at your program of work, what are those areas of success? How successful have you been in the TIU?
So first of all, forgive me for boasting, but I have to. The TIU has a fantastic team of people working. And if your listeners could see, I have a really big smile on my face.
It's almost half of your face.
Because...
And your eyes are lit up.
Because I'm telling you, we number almost 100 in the TIU now across all of our projects. And we're doing about 13 or 14 projects. And to get all those people working together in symmetry is a little bit of art and a lot of luck. And I think we've been exceedingly lucky in the TIA. So first of all, I have to say that's our first success. We built a fantastic team. There's one project that I did not talk about that is actually the project that sort of kickstarted all of this. So the My HR Plus project.
Yeah.
That is one of our
payroll
human resource management and payroll system that we're rolling out across the public sector. We've had 2 prior attempts to do this. Both of them did not get very far. Today, we have 70 ministries, departments, agencies, in total, 70 of them on My HR Plus.
That's an achievement.
It is. And we expect by the end of this year that we'll be up to 73 entities that are on My HR Plus. As you know, this phase is now winding down. Shared corporate services, we ran pilots because before we jump into this very new area, we want to make sure that it works. So we ran pilots in human resource management, payroll, internal audit. 3 pilots were wildly successful. They met their SLAs, their service level agreements, with the entities that were participating in the pilot, and we've now started our pilots in finance and accounts, and we're about to start in procurement. But the thing about the shared corporate services is that it is the first in the English-speaking Caribbean It's the first organization of its kind in the public sector.
In the public sector.
In the English-speaking Caribbean. And for that, we are very, very proud. We have proven the concept, and it has to demonstrate to the government that it is worth its while to invest in building the Department of Shared Corporate Services. In terms of our rationalization program, we've rationalized 45 public bodies. That amounts to over $2 billion in savings.
That is good.
Across the period. And this is not just one-off savings, like in board fees or so. This is in recurrent costs, and this is funds that can be diverted
for other areas.
We have rolled out GovNet in the KMA. We have connected ministries, departments, and agencies, and we're currently now, people may see some road work happening. So yes, we're on road work too. Hope Road, Ligani, Barbican, coming down Old Hope Road. That's us ensuring that we have built-in redundancy in the government's network, and so that we have what we call is a failover. If the primary fails, it fails over to the redundancy, which is the backup. We have, of course, developed and implemented the new compensation system. We continue to work with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that implementation is complete, and that the policies and changes that will be needed to support this new compensation system, those discussions and consultations continue with our union partners.
And that's a fundamental project. I don't want you to gloss over it. I mean, not because I worked in the public sector at one point, but I can't recall in recent times that there has been this level of change around pay in the public sector.
That's correct. It's been, I myself am from the public sector, and I would say in the late 90s, there was an attempt to start the process to move to 80% of market.
80%.
Yes. But we never completed it. Shortly after that, actually, I think the public sector went into its first wage freeze. This time around, though, we have the capacity to implement it. And whilst I know in terms of expectations, we may not have met everybody's expectations, and I don't expect that we will meet everybody's expectations. But if you pause to think about COVID, the impact it has had across the world, on governments across the world, on budgets across the world. So we're coming out of COVID in 2020. We're into recovery in 2021. And in 2022, the government of Jamaica can implement a new compensation system that is guaranteed to give you an increase on your net pay, not at 8%, not a single digit, over the 3-year period, a 20% increase on your net pay, which would translate into something like anywhere between 30 and 80% on your gross pay, depending on the allowances that were absorbed. That's a huge thing.
At a time like this. And yes, we know there's a lot of angst and there was a lot of pushback, but I think if people just stop and think about what was actually done, it's a huge achievement. Yes.
It is a huge achievement, and it is not something that we should shy away from. Right? People will speak about their personal issues, which are important, but looking at what was done, it is an achievement, and we must never shy away from it. For our efficiency projects with our public bodies, for CPFSA, we have completed their ICT expansion. For PICA, we're almost at the end of the introduction of their customer relationship management system, and we are working with the Ministry of Labour and the Fisheries Authority to complete the implementation of the fisheries licensing system and the work permit system for those two entities. These are some of the achievements that we have in the TIU. There are two, however, that I do want to talk about, because they're not really projects, they're really support areas. And the first is change management. And change management is hugely important. And there's a lot of material around the theory of change management and, you know, the things that you should do. What we don't have is the how of change management. The practical guide as to how do I manage change. And at TIU, we've been able to look at change through the lens of all of our projects, but also through the lens of other projects, not just the TIU projects.
Lessons learned.
To understand exactly how we are looking at change in the public sector and to create a change management playbook for the public sector. The areas that are important. And by a playbook, I don't mean that we've created a manual. This is really a guide. We have templates, we have examples, we have change management plans, we have advice on actual implementing these plans that you have, these beautiful plans that we put up in Excel spreadsheets and then they just sit down. No, we have advice on to how to implement those plans, the steps that you need to take, who you need to talk to, how you identify who you need to talk to. All of that is in our change management playbook and we hope to launch that very soon.
Great.
And our communications program, I think it's safe to say our communications program is awesome.
Very good.
The feedback that I have had from people in the general public, from our development partners, is that our communications program is so on point and so relevant that it not just provides information, but it also gives persons an insight into what it takes to bring about this type of transformation.
Yes.
So those two areas, I believe, are also contribute to some of our successes.
And your eyes lit up and, you know, I can see the passion.
Yes.
And you were recently conferred with the Order of Distinction for your work. How does that feel?
It's a little overwhelming. Honestly, it came as a surprise the night, and they called me one night when I got the call. I thought it was a prank at first.
It's an era of prank calls.
I did, because the officer who called is someone who knows me, and she said, "Am I speaking with Maria Thompson Walters?" And I said, "Yes, you are." And she says, "Well, Miss Maria." So I kind of went, and then she told me what was, and I hesitated because I really thought it was a prank. And she says, "Maria, don't say you're not coming, you know. Don't say you're not coming, because I can tell you deserve this, you deserve this, you deserve this." And I said to her, "No, man, I am coming. I am coming." And of course she made the point that I must take a note of the time, because the protocol officers work late. They do what they need to do to provide service.
A little plug for the overtime or something like that.
Absolutely. But, you know, for me, it says that it doesn't matter at what level in the public sector, people are comfortable talking to me. And that, for me, is golden. And I think that is what has allowed me to achieve so much. And so this award is an endorsement of everything that I have done and I have been doing. It's also an endorsement of the work that's done by this team that I have the absolute privilege to lead. I don't take that privilege lightly, because without that team we would not have achieved. So it is an endorsement of the things that I've done, the team that we've built, and just the work in transforming the public sector. So yeah, this one is really special. Really, really special.
And as we wrap up our chat, Maria, how do you feel about public sector transformation in the future? What's next?
I'm optimistic about public sector transformation. I'm very optimistic because there's an excitement in the public sector. I know it's not evident.
I was about to say excitement in the public sector. You need to qualify that one.
I know it's not evident, but there is an excitement in the public sector. When I am asked to speak at whether it's a staff function or, a senior manager's meeting or so, people are hungry for change. And hungry for change not because, I'm tired of the same old. They're hungry for change because they want to do things differently. Nobody wants to hear, them people there. Nobody wants to be lumped in that way. Persons come to work every single day wanting to do their best. And people understand that we can't keep doing the things that we were doing 30 years ago and expecting the types of outcomes that we want. And if that groundswell is there, I am optimistic about the future of public sector transformation. I believe that there is a commitment in the leadership of government to continue to transform its public sector to serve the needs of our citizens and all of our customers. And so, I'm looking forward to phase 2. But I won't tell you too much about what is coming. Just to say that our focus this time around will be on looking at how we develop, how we train, how we build the strength of the public sector to deliver.
Awesome. And that, ladies and gentlemen, bring the curtains down on season 2 of the weekly podcast of the Transformation Implementation Unit called Beyond Reform. I'm your host, Aniki Clark, and my very special guest was Maria Thompson Walters, Executive Director of the Transformation Implementation Unit. Remember, you can check out all the episodes of this podcast on the website at publicsectortransformation.gov.jm. Until next season, do take care.